For months, everyone believed the glamorous billionaire's fiancée, a woman who appeared perfect, gentle, and untouchable, while the loyal maid who had served the family for years was treated like a liar, a traitor, and even a criminal. With no money, no lawyer, and absolutely no proof, the maid was dragged into court, humiliated in front of strangers, and sentenced to prison for a crime she never committed. The billionaire trusted his fiancée so completely that he turned his back on the very woman who had raised and protected his family. But what no one knew was that someone had been watching quietly this entire time. The billionaire's young son. Determined to help the only person who had ever truly cared for him, the boy secretly recorded the truth inside the mansion. And when he finally stepped into the courtroom with undeniable evidence, he revealed a shocking secret that exposed the fiancée's entire deception, leaving the judge, the crowd, and even his father in complete disbelief. But the worst part was still to come. Because even after being confronted with proof, the fiancée claimed it was all fake. What she didn't know was that the boy had one final move, something she couldn't deny, fake or escape. And what he did next would reveal the whole truth and leave everyone absolutely speechless. Before we continue with this story, don't forget to subscribe to the channel and like the video. Oh, and don't forget to comment below where you're watching us from. We love to know that. Ethan Campbell was a billionaire who had lost his wife not long ago. Her death left a deep mark on him, and even though he tried to move forward, he still carried the pain of her absence. His life was quiet and focused mainly on his young son, Noah. Things started to change when he met Olivia Turner, a woman with a striking appearance who seemed to bring light back into his world. Olivia quickly earned Ethan's trust with her charm and attention. She made him feel like he could love again and be happy. Ethan welcomed the idea of a new relationship and believed Olivia might be the person to help him heal. He was grateful to have someone who listened to him and gave him hope. Despite his past grief, Ethan started opening up, letting Olivia into his personal life. With her, he felt a sense of purpose and began to believe that building a future together was truly possible. As Olivia became part of the household, things around the house began to change. Martha Collins, the housemaid who had worked for Ethan's family for years, noticed the difference right away. She had always been close to the family and was protective, especially after the death of Ethan's wife. Martha paid close attention to everything that happened, and she started seeing things that made her uncomfortable. Olivia, although polite and well-spoken, had stories that didn't always match. Martha picked up on small details, like how Olivia sometimes said one thing and later said something different. These little contradictions started to worry her. Martha also saw how Olivia acted with Noah. Her smiles seemed a bit too forced, and her way of talking to him lacked warmth. Even when she tried to show affection, it didn't seem genuine. Martha wasn't sure if Olivia truly cared about the child, and that made her uneasy. She kept her observations quiet, but inside, her concern was growing. Ethan, however, didn't see any of these things. His attention was focused on Olivia, and he felt lucky to have found someone who wanted to be part of his life. When Olivia told him she was pregnant, he was overwhelmed with emotion. The news hit him deeply. He believed it was a sign, a second chance to build a family, to bring life and joy back into his home. He didn't question her words for a second. To him, it made perfect sense. Olivia was beautiful, kind, and now she was carrying his child. Ethan's feelings for her grew stronger, and he became more invested in the idea of a future together. He started making plans and sharing his excitement. The pregnancy gave him a new reason to wake up every day. He pictured a happy family, with Noah having a sibling and the house filled with laughter again. He didn't notice how others around him were reacting differently. Noah, Ethan's young son, didn't seem to share the same joy. He was quiet around Olivia, and didn't respond well to her attempts to connect. Sometimes he avoided her completely. Martha, who cared for Noah like a grandmother would, saw how uncomfortable he looked when Olivia was near. She knew the boy well and trusted her instincts. Olivia's presence seemed to make him anxious. There were moments when Noah would cling to Martha or stay in his room longer than usual. Whenever Olivia tried to talk to him or show affection, it looked unnatural. Noah rarely smiled around her, and his silence said more than words ever could. Martha started to feel that something wasn't right. She watched closely, noticing how Olivia only tried with Noah when Ethan was watching. Without Ethan around, she became cold and distant with the child. Martha didn't know what Olivia's intentions were, but she didn't believe they were good. The atmosphere in the house became more tense as the days went by. Ethan remained focused on Olivia and the baby, often overlooking the quiet unease that had settled over his home. Martha continued to do her job, but she was more alert now. She didn't want to believe that Ethan could be making a mistake, but she couldn't ignore the signs either. Olivia's actions didn't match her words. She claimed to love the family, but her behavior didn't reflect true care or connection. The warmth that usually filled the house was missing. Even the staff who worked occasionally noticed the shift. Martha tried to talk to Ethan subtly, but he was too hopeful and emotionally attached to see the problem. He believed in Olivia fully. He saw her as a savior, someone who had brought love and joy back into their lives. Martha, however, was growing more suspicious with each passing day. Martha's biggest concern became the pregnancy. Olivia often talked about it, but there were strange things Martha couldn't ignore. Olivia never went to the doctor with Ethan. She always had an excuse or said she preferred to go alone. There were no visible signs yet, and she never seemed tired or sick, which Martha found odd. She began to wonder if the pregnancy was even real. Olivia spoke of baby clothes and names, but it all felt like a performance. Whenever Martha tried to ask questions, Olivia answered with confidence, but something about it felt rehearsed. Martha didn't want to jump to conclusions, but her years of experience told her to trust her instincts. She believed Olivia might be lying about being pregnant to secure her place in Ethan's life. The idea made her nervous. She didn't know how to prove it, but she knew she had to protect Ethan and Noah from possible harm. As the weeks went by, Olivia's belly began to show a small curve, just enough to support what she had said about being pregnant. The change was noticeable, and it made Ethan even more excited. For him, it was clear proof that a new chapter was beginning. He started to prepare the house for the arrival of the baby. He talked about setting up a new room, choosing furniture, and buying baby clothes. He wanted everything to be ready in time. Olivia, noticing his excitement, made several requests about what she wanted for the baby and for her comfort. Ethan didn't hesitate to meet her demands. He made sure she had everything she needed, from special food to new furniture. He also made time to drive her to her appointments, showing that he was committed and happy. He believed Olivia completely and didn't question her actions. To him, this pregnancy was real, and he was going to do his best to be supportive every step of the way. Martha continued to observe everything happening inside the house. She had her doubts before, but now those doubts were getting stronger. Olivia claimed to be pregnant, and the slight change in her body supported that story. However, some things didn't seem right to Martha. Even though Ethan offered to go with her, Olivia often cancelled her medical appointments. She always had a reason, feeling tired, not feeling well, or saying the doctor had rescheduled. Sometimes she said she wanted privacy or that it was just a routine checkup. Martha found it strange that someone pregnant would avoid seeing doctors regularly. She knew from past experience how important those visits were. The excuses began to pile up, and Martha grew more suspicious. She tried to mention it to Ethan, gently, but he brushed off her concerns. He believed Olivia was just nervous. or didn't like hospitals. Martha didn't push too hard, but inside she was sure something wasn't adding up. While Ethan became more involved in caring for Olivia, Noah started to pull away. The boy, still very young, didn't say much, but his behavior showed how he felt. He stayed quiet most of the time and preferred to be around Martha instead of Olivia. Whenever there was a family moment, like dinner or a walk, Noah seemed tense if Olivia was there. He often looked away and avoided eye contact with her. Martha noticed how he always chose to sit closer to her and rarely responded when Olivia tried to speak with him. Olivia would sometimes act nice in front of Ethan, smiling and talking kindly to Noah, but the boy didn't react warmly. His silence was clear. He didn't trust Olivia, even if he didn't have the words to explain it. Martha felt more responsible than ever to stay close to him. She believed that Noah sensed something was wrong, and that made her even more determined to keep watching. As things in the house became more complicated, tension grew between Olivia and Martha. Olivia began to complain openly about Martha's presence. She told Ethan that the maid was crossing boundaries, saying she felt watched and disrespected. She claimed that Martha didn't treat her kindly and made her feel uncomfortable in her own home. Olivia said she didn't want to argue, but that Martha was being too invasive. She didn't like how Martha questioned her choices or looked at her when she spoke. These complaints began to affect the atmosphere of the house. Martha, on the other hand, stayed calm but firm. She knew she hadn't done anything wrong, but she also knew that Olivia was trying to create distance between her and Ethan. Despite the accusations, Martha continued doing her work and taking care of Noah. She refused to let the growing pressure stop her from being present. She kept her focus and remained alert to every detail around her. Ethan found himself in a difficult situation. On one side, he had Olivia, who was pregnant and often emotional, telling him that Martha was making life harder for her. On the other side, he had Martha, someone who had worked for the family for years and had always been loyal. Ethan tried to balance both relationships, but Olivia's words had a strong impact on him. She often cried or seemed upset after arguments, and Ethan didn't want to add more stress to her pregnancy. He started to believe that Martha was acting out of jealousy. He thought she felt like she was losing her place in the house and in his life. He reassured Olivia that he would talk to Martha and tried to keep the peace. However, he didn't realize how deeply this was affecting the way the household functioned. The trust he once had in Martha began to weaken, even though she had never given him a real reason to doubt her. Still, Martha refused to give up. She had cared for Ethan, his late wife, and Noah for a long time. Her role in the house wasn't just about cleaning or cooking. She was part of the family in her own way. Martha continued to observe Olivia carefully, making mental notes of every inconsistency. She also spent more time with Noah, offering him comfort and making sure he felt safe. She tried not to let Olivia's words get to her, even though they made her job more stressful. In Martha's eyes, Olivia was hiding something, and the pregnancy might not be real. But with Ethan so convinced and hopeful, it was hard to say anything without causing more conflict. Martha knew she had to be patient. She was waiting for the right moment or the right evidence to bring the truth to light. Until then, she stayed close to Noah and watched over the house, hoping to protect the people she still cared about. The wedding preparations between Ethan and Olivia moved forward at a fast pace. There were many events happening one after another: parties, meetings with planners, and public announcements. Ethan wanted everything to be perfect and was determined to give Olivia the wedding of her dreams. He invited close friends and business partners, and he made sure that every detail was taken care of. Olivia was always involved in these decisions, acting like the center of attention. She enjoyed the attention and praise she received, especially when people commented on her pregnancy and upcoming marriage. Ethan was proud and excited. He believed he had found happiness again, and he was not holding back. Meanwhile, Noah was getting quieter. He didn't say much during the gatherings, and when people spoke to him about the wedding, he often looked uncomfortable. He stayed close to Martha and avoided talking about the future. Ethan was too focused on Olivia to notice the growing discomfort in his own son, who seemed to be drifting further away. Martha felt more worried with each passing day. The atmosphere in the house had changed completely. Ethan, who once listened to her and respected her opinion, now dismissed her concerns. When Martha tried to speak with him carefully about her observations, he responded coldly. He said she was stepping out of line and that it wasn't her place to question his choices. This response hurt Martha deeply, but it also made her more certain that something was wrong. Olivia acted differently when Ethan wasn't around. She treated Martha with disrespect and made it clear she considered herself above her. Whenever there was work to be done or any small issue in the house, Olivia used her pregnancy as an excuse not to be involved. She said she couldn't be stressed or tired. She claimed that even small things could be dangerous for the baby. Ethan accepted her words without doubt and insisted everyone else respect her wishes. Martha, however, found these excuses excessive. With each day that passed, the division inside the house became more obvious. Ethan was completely focused on Olivia. He spent most of his time with her, trying to make her comfortable and happy. He was fully convinced that she was the best thing to happen to him since his wife passed away. His attention to her grew stronger, and he didn't seem to notice the quiet tension growing around him. On the other side, Martha and Noah shared a silent worry. They didn't speak about it openly, but their looks and actions showed their concern. Noah rarely smiled anymore, and he often kept to himself. Martha did her best to support him and stay calm, but she was also carrying a heavy weight of doubt. The feeling that something wasn't right stayed with her all the time. She couldn't understand why Ethan didn't see what she saw. The house, once full of routine and peace, now felt like a place filled with hidden stress and unspoken fears. Olivia began to show a new side of herself as the wedding day came closer. She acted more confident and demanding, and she used her pregnancy often as a reason to avoid anything she didn't like. If there was something she didn't want to do, or someone she didn't want to deal with, she said it was too stressful for the baby. Her words always seemed carefully chosen. Ethan didn't question her, not even once. Martha noticed this change right away. Olivia seemed to enjoy the control she was gaining in the house. She no longer acted friendly or tried to get along with the staff. She treated them as if they were below her. Martha stayed professional, but inside she was growing more upset. Olivia's behavior didn't match someone who was kind or sincere. It felt like everything Olivia did was part of a plan, and that made Martha worry even more. Ethan couldn't see it, and that made things worse. What troubled Martha the most was the way Olivia spoke to Ethan when they were alone, but close enough for her to hear. Martha heard Olivia using emotional and personal words. She often reminded Ethan how lonely he had been after his wife's death. She talked about how hard it was for him to go through that pain alone. She said he deserved happiness and that people who cared about him should want him to move forward. These words, while not aggressive, sounded like emotional pressure to Martha. She believed Olivia was using Ethan's past pain to control him. Ethan, already emotionally fragile from his loss, didn't seem to recognize this. Instead, he felt comforted by Olivia's words and leaned on her even more. Martha felt frustrated and helpless. She didn't know how to open Ethan's eyes without pushing him further away. She had never seen him like this before, so blind to the situation unfolding around him. Despite everything, Martha didn't give up. Her instincts told her that Olivia's actions were not as honest as they seemed. She continued doing her work, looking after Noah and trying to stay calm, even under pressure. She kept watching, kept listening, and waited for the right moment when she could finally prove what she believed was true. Martha knew she had to be careful. Olivia had already turned Ethan against her once, and one wrong step could make things worse. But she also knew that something had to be done. She couldn't let the wedding move forward without doing everything she could to protect Ethan and Noah. Martha believed in the truth, and she believed that if she remained strong and alert, the truth would eventually come out. Until that happened, she would stay close, observe every detail, and hold on to the hope that Ethan would one day see what was really happening before it was too late. On the day of the wedding, the mansion was filled with decorations. Every room had been carefully prepared, with flowers, lights, and expensive arrangements in every corner. Everything looked perfect. The guests started to arrive early, dressed for the special event. There were people from Ethan's business circle, family friends, and others who had known him for years. Everyone was smiling, talking, and excited to see the ceremony. It was a big day, and Ethan wanted everything to go as planned. Noah stood next to his father, dressed in formal clothes, but he didn't say much. He looked around quietly and didn't smile. Martha walked through the rooms, checking that everything was ready, and doing her usual tasks, but her heart wasn't calm. She kept an eye on Olivia, waiting for the moment she would walk in. Martha had a heavy feeling in her chest. She had tried to warn Ethan before, but now she felt this might be the last chance to stop something she believed was wrong. Olivia finally appeared, wearing a beautiful white dress that caught everyone's attention. The dress was fitted in a way that showed her round belly, and many guests whispered about how stunning she looked. Some guests walked up to her to say congratulations and admire her appearance. Olivia smiled and acted happy, accepting every compliment with calm confidence. Ethan watched her with admiration and pride, holding her hand and saying how lucky he was. From the outside, it all looked perfect. Martha, however, could not ignore her doubts. She kept looking at Olivia's stomach, remembering all the cancelled doctor appointments and excuses. Everything about the pregnancy still seemed suspicious to her. Olivia continued walking through the crowd, waving and speaking sweetly to everyone, as if nothing was wrong. Noah stayed close to Ethan, avoiding Olivia's touch. He didn't say anything, but his discomfort was clear to Martha. It was becoming harder for her to stay quiet and pretend everything was normal. As the ceremony began, everyone took their places. The chairs were arranged neatly outside in the garden, with music playing softly in the background. Ethan and Olivia stood in front of everyone, ready to exchange their vows. The guests sat silently, waiting for the words that would make the marriage official. Martha stood near the back, watching closely. Her mind was full of thoughts. She had been holding back for weeks, unsure of what to do. But as she looked at Olivia smiling and speaking sweet words to Ethan, something inside her told her she couldn't stay quiet any longer. She believed too strongly that the pregnancy was fake, and letting the marriage happen without saying anything felt wrong. As the ceremony continued, Martha stepped forward. Her hands were shaking, but her voice was clear. In front of all the guests, she said Olivia was lying. She said the pregnancy was not real, and that the whole situation was part of a plan to deceive Ethan. The moment was tense. As soon as Martha spoke, everyone turned to look at her. The atmosphere changed instantly. Guests were shocked, whispering and staring, unsure of what to think. Ethan froze. His face turned red, and his eyes showed a mix of confusion and anger. He looked at Martha, not believing what she had just said. He asked her how she could say such a thing on his wedding day, in front of everyone. Martha tried to explain, saying she had seen things, noticed the lies, and that this was her only chance to speak the truth. But Ethan didn't want to listen. He felt humiliated and betrayed. He believed Martha had crossed a line that should never have been crossed. To him, her words weren't just a mistake, they were an attack against someone he loved and trusted. Olivia, standing next to him, held her stomach and started to cry. She looked hurt and shocked, acting like she couldn't believe what was happening. Olivia's reaction made many guests feel sympathy for her. She sobbed quietly at first, then said she couldn't understand how Martha could say something so cruel. She told Ethan that she had done nothing wrong and that Martha had always disliked her. She said the stress could hurt the baby and that she didn't feel safe anymore. Olivia asked Ethan to do something to protect her from this kind of treatment. She insisted that Martha should be punished for causing pain on what was supposed to be a happy day. Her tears, combined with her words, made it seem like she was the victim. Ethan was still very upset. He looked around at the guests, feeling embarrassed by what had just happened. He had invited so many people to celebrate, and now the entire event was marked by this public accusation. Olivia continued crying, saying she wanted legal action to be taken against Martha for false accusations and emotional damage. Martha stood there, silent now, watching everything unfold. She didn't take her words back, but she could see that no one was on her side at that moment. Ethan had made his choice. He walked away from her, holding Olivia tightly and telling her everything would be okay. The guests started to talk among themselves, some in support of Ethan, others still unsure about what they had witnessed. Martha felt alone, but not regretful. She believed she had done the right thing. She couldn't watch the marriage happen without saying what she believed was the truth. Even if no one believed her now, she hoped that one day Ethan would see what she had seen. She turned and walked away from the ceremony area, not wanting to cause more problems, but also knowing that this story was not over. The wedding went on, but the tension in the air remained, and the damage caused by that moment could not be undone. Right after the wedding disaster, emotions inside the mansion were still running high. Olivia, still upset and crying, told Ethan that something needed to be done about what Martha had done. She said that accusing her of lying about the pregnancy in front of everyone had damaged her reputation and put her mental health at risk. Olivia repeated that the stress could affect the baby. She insisted that this was not just a personal issue, but a serious offense, and that Martha needed to face consequences. Ethan, already feeling humiliated by what had happened at the ceremony, felt cornered. He believed that Martha had crossed a line that couldn't be forgiven. Olivia continued to talk about how hurt she was and how scared she felt in her own home. After listening to her and feeling overwhelmed by everything, Ethan finally agreed. He called his lawyers and gave them instructions to begin a legal case against Martha for defamation. It was a decision that changed everything for the people inside that house. Martha was shocked when she learned that Ethan had started legal action against her. Even though she had expected a negative reaction, she had hoped deep down that Ethan would reflect and maybe see that she only spoke out because of what she believed. But now, facing the possibility of being sued, she began to feel afraid. She didn't have money for expensive lawyers, and she knew that without legal help, it would be very hard to defend herself. The idea of going to court scared her. She feared being found guilty and possibly going to prison. Martha had spent many years working in that house, caring for Ethan's family, and now she was being treated like a criminal. She couldn't believe how quickly everything had changed. One moment she was trying to protect a family she cared about, and the next she was alone, facing something much bigger than she could handle on her own. Her fear grew stronger with each passing day. Noah could sense everything that was going on, even if the adults didn't say it directly to him. After the wedding, he became even more distant from his father. He didn't understand every detail of the situation, but he knew that Martha was no longer at the house and that she was in trouble. He also saw how Ethan stayed close to Olivia, always trying to comfort her. Noah missed Martha's presence. She had been the one who made him feel safe, listened to him, and cared for him when things were difficult. Now she was gone, and Olivia had taken over everything. The boy felt confused and sad. At times, he would sit alone and avoid speaking to anyone. His connection with his father grew weaker, and he didn't know how to explain what he was feeling, Noah didn't trust Olivia and didn't believe that Martha had done anything wrong. Watching her be treated like she was guilty made him feel helpless and angry inside. Meanwhile, Olivia played her role very well. She acted more fragile than ever, telling people in the house that she couldn't sleep, that she felt nervous all the time, and that the stress might affect the baby. She said Martha's public accusation had caused deep emotional damage, and now she needed peace and protection. Ethan believed her. He tried to do everything he could to make her feel better. He made sure no one talked about the wedding incident and asked the staff to give Olivia privacy. Olivia used every opportunity to remind Ethan how badly she had been treated and how grateful she was for his support. Her words often returned to how lonely she had felt after the scandal. She said she couldn't walk outside without feeling judged. These stories made Ethan feel guilty and pushed him to stay even closer to her. While Olivia presented herself as the victim, Martha remained outside the house, far away from everything that was happening behind closed doors. As the days passed, the story began to attract attention outside the mansion. Rumors about the wedding incident started spreading, and soon the press began asking questions. Some reporters tried to contact people who had been at the event. Others wrote articles based on what they had heard from sources. Headlines mentioned a public fight during the wedding, a former employee accusing the bride of lying, and a legal case that was now in progress. This unwanted attention added even more pressure to the situation. Olivia said the media was making things worse for her and that the exposure was damaging her mental health. Ethan tried to control the situation by asking his lawyers to handle the press and protect Olivia's image. But inside the house, everyone was tense. The news brought stress to the staff, and the once private life of Ethan was now becoming part of public gossip. Everything felt unstable, and no one could say what would happen next. Martha, no longer working at the mansion, returned to her own home. Her house was small and simple, very different from the luxury she had lived in while working for Ethan. She sat alone most days, thinking about everything that had happened. She didn't have visitors, and she didn't know who she could turn to. The silence around her made the situation feel even heavier. She thought about Noah often and wondered how he was doing. She also thought about Ethan and whether he would ever see the truth. But right now, there was no sign of that happening. Martha had no legal team, no money, and no one speaking up for her. All she had was her belief that she had done the right thing, even if no one believed her. Waiting for news about the legal case felt like torture. She didn't know if she would be arrested or given a chance to defend herself. All she could do was wait and hope. When the day of the trial finally arrived, Martha walked into the courtroom, feeling completely unprepared. She had no lawyer by her side and no resources to gather evidence. All she had were her words, her memories, and the observations she had made while working in the mansion. She tried to stay calm, but the room felt overwhelming. People whispered, looked at her, and waited for the judge to begin. Martha sat alone at the defense table, knowing that everyone expected her to lose. She felt small, especially when she saw Olivia enter with confidence. The atmosphere made it clear that Martha was at a disadvantage. She wished she could explain everything more clearly, but she knew that without strong proof, her words might not matter. Still, she hoped the judge would listen with fairness. She hoped someone in the courtroom would understand that she had only tried to protect Ethan and Noah. But deep inside, she feared the outcome would not be in her favor. Olivia arrived looking calm and prepared, sitting beside her legal team. She had brought documents, medical papers, and specialists ready to speak on her behalf. Her appearance contrasted sharply with Martha's vulnerable situation. Olivia behaved as though everything was under control. She greeted a few people and then took her seat with an air of confidence. When the hearing started, her lawyers presented the medical records, showing what appeared to be legitimate proof of pregnancy. There were signatures, dates, and reports that seemed official. Olivia sat quietly while her representatives spoke for her, explaining how she had been harmed by Martha's accusation. Everything presented supported her story. The specialist she brought confirmed the documents and stated that Olivia's emotional distress was real. From where Martha sat, it looked nearly impossible to challenge any of it. Olivia kept her expression serious but composed, acting as if she were truly the injured party. Martha felt even smaller, realizing how powerful Olivia's position looked in the eyes of the court. The judge listened carefully to both sides, but the difference in the amount of evidence was obvious. Martha had nothing but her statements. She explained what she had seen, how Olivia had avoided important medical appointments, and how the behavior she witnessed didn't match someone truly expecting a baby. She spoke honestly, trying to express the concerns that had led her to speak up at the wedding. But without documents, witnesses, or expert support, her words were viewed as weak. The judge questioned her, asking for proof, and Martha had nothing more to offer. Her voice began to shake, not because she doubted herself, but because she realized the court did not believe her. When Olivia's side presented their evidence, the judge reacted differently. He considered the documents consistent and acceptable. He said the evidence supported Olivia's claims and showed that Martha's accusation had caused serious emotional harm. Martha felt the hope inside her fade a little more with every passing minute. Ethan sat quietly through the entire trial, watching the events unfold. He didn't look at Martha, not even once. He sat next to Olivia, his posture straight and his expression cold. Martha remembered how close they once were, how she had cared for his home and his child for so many years, but now he acted as if she were a stranger. When Olivia cried during part of the hearing, Ethan held her hand, offering silent comfort. His behavior showed clearly whose side he was on. Martha wanted to speak to him, to remind him of everything she had done for the family, but she knew it would do no good. Ethan seemed convinced that Olivia was the victim and Martha the villain. The distance between them felt final. The person she had once protected now looked at her with disappointment and anger. Martha could feel that she had lost his trust completely, and that hurt almost as much as the trial itself. When the judge read the final sentence, the entire courtroom went silent. He declared that Martha was guilty of defamation and emotional damage, announcing a punishment of 15 years in prison. The words echoed in the room, and for a moment, Martha felt like she couldn't breathe. She stood frozen, unable to process what she had just heard. 15 years. It didn't feel real. She looked around, hoping someone would object or stand up for her, but no one did. Olivia kept her head lowered, acting upset, while her lawyers nodded with satisfaction. Ethan remained still, not showing any sign of doubt. The guards approached Martha slowly, and before she could speak, her hands were pulled together and locked in handcuffs. The cold metal around her wrists felt like the final confirmation that her world had collapsed completely. She wanted to scream that she was telling the truth, but the room no longer belonged to her. Noah stood far away from the main seating area, trying to stay unnoticed. He had been brought to the courtroom, but no one had asked him how he felt or what he believed. He watched everything with wide eyes, understanding enough to know that Martha was being punished for something he believed she hadn't done. As she was taken away, he bit his lip to stop himself from crying. It hurt him to see her in handcuffs, being led out like a criminal. Noah had always trusted Martha, and he remembered the way Olivia acted when his father wasn't looking. He knew Martha hadn't lied, but no one had asked him, and he felt too small to speak up. The adults around him were focused on Olivia's tears and Ethan's anger. Noah realized that sometimes the truth didn't matter if no one wanted to hear it. He stood there quietly, feeling alone, wishing someone would believe what he knew in his heart was real. After Martha was sentenced and taken away, Noah felt a deep sadness inside. He missed her presence more than he could explain. The mansion, which had already changed a lot, now felt even colder to him. No one talked about Martha anymore, and life inside the house seemed to go on as if she had never been there. But Noah could not forget. He believed that she had told the truth and that no one had listened. He remembered all the moments she had protected him, taken care of him, and stood by his side. That memory gave him strength. Even though he was just a child, he made a decision. He would do something. He didn't know how yet, but he was sure that Olivia had lied. He decided to watch her carefully. He stayed quiet, pretending to go along with everything, but inside he was focused. Every day, he paid close attention to Olivia's actions, looking for anything strange, anything that could help Martha somehow. Noah began to notice things. Olivia acted different when she thought she was alone. She touched her belly in strange ways, and sometimes she pressed it as if adjusting something under her clothes. She also walked differently when no one was watching her. These small details caught Noah's attention. He started using his phone to record short videos whenever he saw something suspicious. He kept the phone close to him, hidden in his pocket or jacket. He didn't know if the videos would be enough, but he knew that each one was a piece of something bigger. In some recordings, Olivia could be seen arguing on the phone or talking to herself in a way that revealed she was tired of pretending. Noah made sure to save each clip in a safe place. He watched them again and again, making sure they showed what he believed was true. Every time he captured a new moment, his hope grew stronger. He didn't stop there. Noah began exploring the house in ways he hadn't done before. He waited for times when Olivia was out or distracted. Then he quietly entered the rooms where she kept her personal things. He opened drawers slowly, checked closets, and looked behind furniture. He was careful not to move anything that would make it obvious someone had been there. During one of these searches, he found items that confused and disturbed him. There were objects that didn't make sense for a pregnant woman to have: belts, fabric pieces, and padding that looked like they could be used to create a fake belly. He also found a small bag with items that seemed related to makeup or disguise. Noah didn't fully understand everything, but it was enough to make him more certain. These things, along with his videos, were becoming a collection of proof. He knew he had to keep them hidden, so he placed them in a box under his bed, locked away where no one would find them. Organizing everything was not easy, but Noah took it seriously. He looked at each video and named them with dates and short descriptions. He also made drawings and wrote notes to help explain what he had seen. He wanted to make sure that when the time came, whoever looked at the evidence would understand it clearly. It took time and patience, but Noah didn't stop. He worked quietly, mostly at night or when he was sure Olivia wasn't nearby. His heart would beat fast whenever he heard footsteps in the hallway, but he never let fear stop him. He thought about Martha, sitting somewhere alone, maybe feeling like nobody cared. That thought kept him focused. He didn't have anyone to help him, but he believed that the truth mattered. He was just a kid, but he knew that sometimes doing the right thing means taking risks. Noah was willing to do that, for Martha, and for what was right. Sometimes Noah felt scared. If Olivia found out what he was doing, he didn't know how she would react. She had already managed to fool so many adults, including his father. She had made people believe lies and had sent someone innocent to jail. That made her dangerous. Noah was afraid that if she discovered his secret, she might try to take his phone, destroy the videos, or even punish him. He had to stay careful all the time. He began locking his bedroom door when he was alone and kept his things hidden where no one would look. At dinner, he acted normal. When Olivia smiled and asked him questions, he responded politely, hiding what he knew. It wasn't easy, but he was strong. He reminded himself every day why he was doing it. He was not just trying to prove something, he was trying to help someone who had helped him. Martha had always believed in him, and now it was his turn to believe in her. Noah didn't tell anyone about his plan. He didn't trust the adults around him anymore, not even his father, who he once looked up to. Ethan had chosen Olivia's side without asking many questions. Noah still loved his father, but he couldn't rely on him now, so he stayed quiet and kept collecting evidence. In his mind, he thought about the day he would deliver everything he had gathered. He didn't know when or how that would happen, but he wanted to be ready. The box under his bed kept growing heavier with proof. Photos, recordings, notes, and the objects he had found. Every item was important. Every video was a step closer to helping Martha. Noah didn't let himself cry anymore. He had cried enough when she was taken away. Now he had work to do, and even though he was just a boy, he understood the weight of what he was carrying. He was the only one left who hadn't given up. With his collection of evidence finally complete, Noah knew it was time to act. He placed everything carefully into his backpack, his phone with all the saved videos, the printed screenshots, the notes he had written, and the items he had secretly taken from Olivia's belongings. He double-checked that nothing was missing. His hands were shaking, but he didn't stop. He knew what he was doing was serious. He was nervous, but he believed in his plan. That morning, while everyone was still asleep or busy, Noah left the mansion and made his way to Martha's house. It was not a big house. It was small and quiet, located far from the busy streets. When he arrived, he knocked on the door and waited. A few seconds later, Martha opened it. Her face showed complete surprise when she saw him standing there. She didn't expect a visit, especially not from Noah. Her eyes became watery as she realized he hadn't forgotten her. She stepped aside and let him in without saying a word. Inside the small living room, Noah took off his backpack and placed it on the table. Martha sat down slowly, still trying to understand what was happening. Noah started taking out the videos and the other materials he had collected. One by one, he explained what each recording showed. Olivia adjusting her fake belly, talking carelessly, and making mistakes that revealed her lies. He also showed the notes he had written, describing every observation in simple words. As he spoke, Martha listened in silence. Her hands were shaking slightly, and her expression showed a mix of shock and emotion. She couldn't believe how much effort Noah had put into this. It was hard for her to understand how such a young boy had managed to notice so many details and collect so much proof without being caught. As Noah continued explaining, she began to feel something she hadn't felt in a long time: hope. For the first time, she saw a real chance to fight back. After hearing everything and watching several of the videos, Martha started to believe that this could truly make a difference. Her heart felt lighter. The recordings clearly showed Olivia behaving in ways that didn't match someone who was really pregnant. There were moments where she forgot to act, and others where her behavior showed complete carelessness. With each new piece of information, Martha felt more convinced that the truth could finally come out. She sat with Noah for hours, going through everything carefully. Together, they made a list of the most important files and moments. They talked about which videos were the clearest and how to organize the materials in a way that would be easy to understand in court. Martha had been feeling lost since the trial, but Noah's visit changed everything. He brought with him not just evidence, but the strength and belief she had been missing. Sitting beside him, she found comfort. She no longer felt alone in this situation. As the afternoon passed, they continued working side by side. Noah remained focused, helping Martha understand each file. He suggested printing certain frames from the videos and highlighting parts where Olivia's lies were obvious. Martha took notes and asked questions, making sure she understood everything. They also talked about how to present the materials during the new hearing. Even without a lawyer, Martha wanted to go prepared. She practiced a few words aloud, thinking about how to speak clearly and calmly in front of the judge. Noah encouraged her and said he believed in her. That simple sentence meant a lot to Martha. It reminded her of the special bond they had built over the years. She looked at him not just as a child she once took care of, but as someone brave and strong. The more they talked, the more determined she became. She knew it wouldn't be easy, but now she had something solid in her hands, and that changed everything. By the end of the day, Martha had all the materials organized. She placed them in a folder and kept them close. She looked at Noah and thanked him, not just with words, but with a long hug that showed how grateful she was. He had taken a risk for her. He had done something that no adult had been willing to do. She felt proud of him, and at the same time, deeply touched. Noah told her again that she had to go to the hearing and show everything. Martha nodded. She didn't want to live in fear anymore. She didn't want to carry the weight of being called a liar when she had spoken the truth. With Noah by her side, she felt ready to face whatever came next. She promised herself that she would speak up clearly and honestly, and finally defend herself with the truth. That night, she didn't feel broken. She felt brave for the first time in a long while. Even though she still had no lawyer, Martha no longer saw that as a reason to give up. She believed that the evidence would speak for itself. With Noah's help, she now had real things to present. She had proof that could not be ignored. She knew that people might still judge her, and that the courtroom might be filled with doubt, but she was ready to stand up and try. The next court date was approaching, and she didn't want to waste any more time feeling scared or defeated. Martha started preparing herself mentally. She practiced what she would say and reviewed the order in which the evidence would be shown. Every time she felt nervous, she remembered Noah's determination. That was enough to give her courage. She was no longer just a former maid accused of lying. She was someone with a voice and with something true to show. And no matter what happened in that room, she was going to speak her truth. On the day of the new hearing, Martha arrived at the courthouse alone. She wore simple clothes and held a folder tightly in her hands. Inside it were the recordings and notes that Noah had given her. She had spent hours organizing everything and reviewing each video, making sure she could explain every detail. Though nervous, she walked with purpose. She knew what was at stake. This time she had something real to show. As she stepped into the courtroom, she felt all eyes on her, but she didn't look down. She moved to her place and sat quietly, waiting for her chance to speak. The judge soon called the session to order. When asked to present her defense, Martha stood up, opened her folder, and began showing the evidence. She explained how Noah had recorded the videos inside the mansion and how he had noticed things no one else had. Her voice was calm, and she tried to be clear. She wanted the judge to see the truth behind the recordings. The judge watched the videos, one by one. Some showed Olivia pressing her belly in strange ways. Others caught moments when she acted carelessly, forgetting the pregnancy she claimed to have. There were also clips where her behavior seemed forced, unnatural. Martha described each scene, explaining the context and what Noah had told her. The courtroom remained silent as the videos played. Ethan watched everything with a serious expression, saying nothing. He looked from the screen to Olivia and then back again. His face showed confusion, like he wasn't sure what to think anymore. Olivia, sitting beside her lawyers, stayed calm. When it was her turn to speak, she denied all the accusations firmly. She said Martha had influenced Noah and used him to create false evidence. She claimed the boy had been manipulated and didn't understand what he was doing. According to Olivia, the videos proved nothing and were part of a plan to destroy her image and her relationship with Ethan. The judge took notes and asked Martha several questions. He wanted to understand how the videos had been recorded and why Noah had acted alone. Martha explained everything again, step by step. She repeated that Noah had done it because he believed in the truth and because he had seen things others ignored. but the judge raised concerns about the quality of the videos. Some were blurry, others had bad sound. Without clear audio or more witnesses, it was hard to confirm what was happening in them. Martha tried to explain that Noah had done his best and that the clips still showed patterns that made Olivia's story questionable. But the lack of other testimony made the evidence weaker. The court had strict rules, and without professional quality or support from other people, it was hard to rely only on what a child had recorded in secret. Still, Martha stayed firm. She said she had no reason to lie, and that all she wanted was justice. Olivia continued to defend herself, showing no signs of fear. She said she had always been honest, and that Martha was trying to destroy her life out of jealousy and resentment. She insisted that the accusations were part of a personal attack and not based on facts. Her lawyers supported her story, saying that the pregnancy had caused emotional stress, and that Martha was using the child's emotions to create doubt. Olivia told the judge that she had always cared for Noah and that she never mistreated him. She painted herself as someone who had been wrongly accused and humiliated. Ethan, still seated, listened carefully. He looked tired and unsure. For the first time, he seemed to hesitate. The images had clearly made an impression, but Olivia's words were strong, and she was confident in every answer she gave. The situation became more tense. Some people in the courtroom began whispering, unsure of who to believe. Martha could feel the pressure, but she didn't back down. As the session continued, the judge asked more detailed questions. He wanted to know why Martha hadn't come forward with these videos sooner. Martha explained that Noah had collected everything after she had already been sentenced, and that the boy had worked in silence because he was afraid. She said he did it because he trusted her, and because he knew something was wrong. The judge nodded, but reminded her that evidence collected without adult supervision or legal support might not be accepted fully. Still, he agreed to keep the materials under review. Olivia looked irritated during this part. She whispered to her lawyer and shook her head slightly. Ethan watched both women, clearly trying to process everything. It was obvious he didn't feel as certain as before. He didn't say anything, but his confusion showed. Martha noticed it. It gave her a small feeling of hope, even though the courtroom remained against her. She knew that making people doubt Olivia was already a small victory. Throughout the hearing, Martha's credibility was constantly questioned. Some saw her as a woman trying to fight back after being proven wrong. Others started to wonder if there might be some truth in what she was showing. The judge stayed focused, asking questions without emotion. He said the court needed more time to review the recordings and decide if they had enough value to reopen the case. Martha understood this. She knew things would not change overnight, but she had done what she came to do. She had shown the truth she believed in. Even if the evidence wasn't perfect, it was real. She stood her ground, defended herself with everything she had, and refused to be silent. As the session ended, she looked around the room. She saw Olivia still holding her confident look, and Ethan sitting quietly, lost in thought. Martha left the courtroom alone again, but this time she didn't feel broken. She felt like someone who had finally been heard. During the continuation of the hearing, the tension in the courtroom was high. The judge was reviewing the recordings again, and questions continued to be asked about the videos and the possible truth behind them. Martha sat quietly, listening and waiting. Olivia remained calm and confident, with her lawyers speaking on her behalf. Ethan looked nervous and confused, still unsure of what to believe. Sitting at the back of the courtroom, Noah watched everything closely. His heart was beating fast, and his mind was racing. He had done everything he could to help Martha, but now he felt like no one was listening the way they should. As the arguments continued, he saw Olivia speaking again, denying everything and blaming others. That moment was too much for Noah. Without thinking twice, he stood up quickly from his seat. People noticed him, but before anyone could stop him, he ran toward Olivia. His small hands reached out and grabbed the front of her dress with determination and pulled hard with all his strength. In one quick motion, part of Olivia's dress tore, and what was underneath became visible to everyone in the courtroom. There, attached to her stomach, was the fake belly she had been hiding. It was clear and undeniable. The courtroom went completely silent for a moment. The judge stopped speaking. Olivia froze in place, shocked by what had just happened. She immediately tried to cover herself, holding onto the remains of the dress and trying to hide the fake belly. But it was too late. The damage was done. Everyone in the room could see the truth. Gasps filled the air, and some people stood up in disbelief. Olivia looked around, clearly panicking, her eyes wide and her hands shaking. Her calm and strong image fell apart in seconds. She no longer had control of the situation. No words could fix what had just been revealed. The courtroom had seen everything, and there was no way to deny it anymore. Ethan sat frozen, unable to move or speak. His eyes were fixed on Olivia, and his expression changed slowly from confusion to realization. For so long, he had trusted her completely. He had defended her, protected her, and even turned against Martha for her. And now, in front of everyone, the truth was clear. Olivia had lied. The pregnancy was fake. All the pain, all the decisions, and all the trust he had placed in her had been built on a lie. He felt numb. He couldn't believe what he was seeing. The woman he had planned to build a future with had tricked him. He looked over at Noah, who was now standing beside Martha. The boy looked tired but relieved. Ethan didn't say a word. He just sat there, silent and still, processing the truth. He didn't try to defend Olivia, and he didn't stop the authorities as they started to take control of the situation. The judge, shocked by what had just happened, quickly asked for order in the courtroom. After a few moments, the room settled down again. The fake belly was undeniable proof. The entire court had seen it with their own eyes. The judge turned to Martha and without hesitation declared her innocent of all charges. She had told the truth from the beginning, and now it was finally proven. The false accusations against her were removed immediately. The courtroom guards were then ordered to detain Olivia. She was charged with fraud, manipulation, and false testimony. As the guards approached, Olivia tried to speak, but her words no longer held power. No one believed her anymore. The lies had collapsed, and her mask had been removed. She was taken out of the courtroom, no longer proud or confident. She was now facing the consequences of everything she had done, while those she had tried to harm were finally being heard. Martha stood quietly as the decision was made, tears filling her eyes. The weight she had carried for so long was suddenly gone. She felt free. For the first time in a long while, she didn't feel afraid. She looked at Noah, who was walking toward her with open arms. The moment he reached her, he hugged her tightly. She hugged him back, holding him with care and deep gratitude. Without his help, none of this would have been possible. He had believed in her when no one else did. He had risked everything to prove her innocence. The bond between them was stronger than ever. Around them, people whispered and talked about what had just happened, but Martha focused only on Noah. She thanked him with quiet words and held his hand. The courtroom no longer felt like a place of fear. It was now a place where the truth had finally been seen and heard. For her, that meant everything. Ethan, still seated, remained silent. He didn't move or speak. His eyes were full of emotion, but he didn't cry. He looked around, seeing the people he had doubted and feeling the heavy reality of his choices. He had believed in a lie for so long. He had allowed Olivia to hurt people who were close to him. He had turned away from Martha and failed to listen to his own son. The truth was right in front of him now, and it hurt more than he expected. But he couldn't change the past. All he could do was accept it. He looked once more at Martha and Noah, They were standing together side by side, stronger than before. He knew he had been wrong. He knew he had failed them. But for now, he stayed where he was, letting the truth sink in. The courtroom slowly began to empty, but Ethan stayed seated, quietly facing the consequences of a truth he could no longer ignore. After everything that had happened, the courtroom slowly returned to order. The judge officially declared Martha innocent, making it clear that she was no longer under any accusation. The decision removed all charges against her, and she was fully released without restrictions. Some people in the room, including a few members of the court staff and observers, quietly clapped in support. Their applause was not loud, but it was enough to show that they recognized the injustice she had faced. Martha stood still for a moment, letting the words sink in. She had waited so long for this moment, and now it was real. The pressure she had carried for months seemed to lift. She felt a mixture of relief, exhaustion, and quiet pride. For the first time in a long time, she was no longer seen as guilty. She was free. She looked around and saw Noah smiling at her. The boy who had never stopped believing in her was still by her side, just like he had been through everything. As the courtroom began to clear, Ethan slowly walked toward Martha. His face looked different from before. There was no more doubt, no anger, only regret. He stopped in front of her and took a deep breath before speaking. His voice was quiet but honest. He said he was sorry. He apologized for having believed in Olivia's lies and for not listening when Martha tried to warn him. He admitted that he had been blind, too focused on trying to fix his broken life and too eager to believe in a second chance. He told her that he had ignored everything she had done for him and his family over the years. Martha listened, saying nothing at first. She looked at him carefully, reading the emotion in his eyes. It wasn't easy to forget everything that had happened, but hearing Ethan speak those words made a difference. He was no longer standing beside Olivia. He had finally seen the truth with his own eyes. While they talked, the police prepared to escort Olivia out of the courtroom. Her hands were in handcuffs, and her attitude had completely changed. She was no longer calm or confident. She shouted, trying to explain herself, saying that everything had been misunderstood. She claimed she had reasons for what she had done, but her words no longer held any power. The court no longer believed her. Her actions had been recorded, proven, and included in the official report. Her fake pregnancy, her manipulation of Ethan, and the lies she had told about Martha were all part of the case. The judge had ordered immediate custody. Olivia continued shouting as the officers led her out, but no one responded. Her voice faded as she was taken down the hall, still trying to defend the things she had done. But there was no space left for her justifications. Her false story had ended, and now she would face the consequences for the damage she had caused. Noah stayed beside Martha through the entire moment. He watched as Olivia was taken away and saw the courtroom slowly return to normal. But inside, he felt something stronger: relief. He was proud of what he had done and happy that everything he had worked on had helped Martha prove her innocence. For a long time, he had felt alone in what he knew. Now, he finally saw that truth had won. He looked up at Martha with a smile, and she placed her hand on his shoulder. It was a small gesture, but it showed everything. They had made it through together. He no longer felt ignored or powerless. His actions had changed the outcome. Noah knew it would be a day he would never forget. He had protected someone he loved, and that gave him a kind of strength that words couldn't describe. Now, as they stood side by side, he knew things would be different. They had faced something hard and come out stronger. After some time, Ethan turned to Martha again. He told her he didn't just want to apologize, he wanted to make things right. He offered her financial help, knowing how much she had lost during the months she had been away. But more than that, he offered his support and recognition. He said she was an important part of their lives and that he didn't want to lose her again. He admitted he had been wrong, but he hoped she could forgive him. Martha didn't answer right away. She took a moment to think. Everything had happened so fast, and she was still processing it all. But she appreciated his words. She saw that he was being sincere. She nodded, not making promises, but showing she had heard him. She still needed time to heal, but she also knew that rebuilding trust started with moments like this. Ethan looked at Noah, then back at Martha, and said he hoped they could move forward, together but with honesty this time. As they left the courtroom, the atmosphere was completely different from when the day had started. The fear, pressure, and uncertainty were gone. Martha walked out as a free woman, with Noah by her side and Ethan no longer blinded by lies. Olivia was no longer part of their lives, and the truth had finally come to light. There were no reporters, no large crowd, just a quiet hallway that now felt like a space of new beginnings. Martha held her folder of cleared documents, but more than that, she carried a new feeling inside her. She had been tested, accused, and hurt, but she had never given up. And thanks to Noah's courage and her own strength, she had cleared her name. As they stepped outside, there was no celebration, no cheers, just a quiet understanding that life could now continue. They didn't know what would come next, but they were finally free to decide it for themselves, no longer living under a shadow of lies. Finally, we've reached the end of this story. I'm extremely happy that you've made it this far. Thank you very much for watching. Comment below what you thought and what was the best or worst part. Don't forget to subscribe. Until next time.